All right. Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday morning. A little early. I got to tell you, I'm feeling like Donald Trump today. Very low energy. Definitely not demented, however. But we're gonna get things rolling. We're gonna get some energy as we go along here. It's just kind of one of those days. I woke up a little too early, but we're gonna make it happen because we got a lot of really weird, fun, crazy, creepy stuff to talk about today. A lot of folks already in the chat. I love to see that. Um, Back Bay Boogeyman says all the money ever, and he's still crying pathetic, referring, of course, to Donald Trump telling poor people this week that they just need to stop buying things, right? I mean, if you're concerned about the cost of things like food, don't buy it, right? I mean, if it's too expensive, why buy things that you may need to survive? See, Donald Trump, as everybody knows, went to Pennsylvania this week for his first in a series, I guess. I don't know. I haven't seen any others yet. His first in a series of economic talks to his diehard, rabid, crazy supporters. And it did not go well. Now, inside the room, it absolutely went well. I mean, he got them all ginned up on racism and just crazy talk. But when it came to the actual economic part of it, which is what it was supposed to be about 100%, everything was so bad that Republican strategists and even Republican lawmakers are now saying that he basically just handed Democrats the only ad they're going to need heading into next year's midterms. They're freaking out because of this low energy, raspy, slurring idiot and his complete inability to actually stay on topic. And when he does stay on topic, it's even worse than when he goes off topic. Because here is what Donald Trump told struggling Americans who, according to the latest poll, half of them say, I'm struggling to buy food because of Trump's tariffs. So here is what Trump said. That's the wrong quote. That's what I'm going to get to a little bit later. That one's even weirder. Trump said this. You can give up certain products. You can give up pencils. That's under the China policy. Every child can get 37 pencils. They only need one or two, They don't need that many. But you always need steel. You don't need $37 for your daughter. 2 or 3 is nice, but you don't need $37. So we're doing things right. We're running this country right, he concluded with. Now, he seems hung up on the number 37. And I can't hear that number without thinking of the movie Clerks, something like 37. Which, of course, that became a meme after the whole Epstein email with Bubba. So I wonder if that's maybe what's going on in Trump's head, why that number 37 is stuck in there. But let me tell you something here. Americans are not being driven to bankruptcy because they're buying too many pencils for their children. I challenge anybody to go find a single person that is struggling to make ends meet because they blew all their money on pencils. Pencils are now, as they have always been, dirt cheap. I mean, I buy actually tons of pencils for my kids because they lose them, the dogs will get them, whatever. So we just keep pencils rolling and flowing through this house like crazy. And I can tell you, I'm not worried about the cost of pencils, and neither is anybody else. Honestly, you could probably walk down a sidewalk for, 2 or 3 blocks, you're probably going to find a pencil on the ground. That's how cheap and disposable they are. Nobody's being driven to bankruptcy because of dolls. Nobody is saying, man, my family is in dire straits right now because I bought all these Barbies for my kids, and now I don't know what to do. That's not happening. What people are telling us right now is, I can't buy meat. I can't afford fresh produce. I can't replace my computer so that I can keep working. I can't buy a new appliance. My air conditioner is dead. My heater is dead. but I can't afford to buy a new one. I can't afford to make the repairs on my car so that I can get to work and get the kids to school and get to appointments. But I can't even afford to go to the doctor's appointments that I have on the schedule. Those are the things that Americans are struggling to afford right now, not pencils and dolls. So this old, elderly, demented freak gets up there on stage lecturing these people who don't have two pennies to rub together to keep themselves warm this winter that you need to stop buying stuff. Now, let me go brag about my $350, $400 million gilded ballroom while my wife is out there on social media hawking $3,000 purses. And we're just supposed to act like that's okay. Got a lot of super chats that have come through here. I want to get to all of these. First one is from V-Man. Thank you very much. Says, hey, Farron, you ever made a critique of a person or movement only for them to respond in a manner that ends up proving you right? Not to my knowledge. I don't. I mean, I've seen a couple people, actually, folks on the left, one guy did this last year and somebody sent it to me. It's the only reason I saw it. Because I was like, yeah, Florida's not turning blue this election. It's actually getting redder and redder with each passing election. And he was like, oh, for God's sakes, here's the truth. And he went through all of these hypotheticals from previous elections that if they had happened this way, it would have been blue. So he's like, yeah, if things weren't the way they were, then you'd be wrong. But they are the way they are, so I'm not wrong, and he was. And of course, last year's election proved that everything he predicted was totally wrong. I don't know who the guy was or where he is now or if he even has a following or not, but that's one that's going to stick with me because it pissed me off because he's trying to prove me wrong by saying if things were not the way they were, they'd be different, which is the dumbest argument I've ever heard. Another super chat here from Scorpius says, greetings from Cape Town. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. I've seen a lot of folks actually coming through in the chat here. We've got Canada, we got Germany, we got Norway. Love to see big international audience. That's phenomenal. Thank you guys very much. V-Man also says, because a few months ago, I criticized the Puerto Rican statement movement for lacking an economic development plan, only for lobby group PR 51st to respond and admit they don't have one. That's awesome. You know, anytime you can get any organization, group of people, whatever, to respond to your criticism, especially when they admit that you're right, that is phenomenal. So keep it up. Another super chat here from 13 Bright Yellow says, keep up the great work. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. So back to this issue of course, economics. I have a segment that's, I believe is going to be coming out tomorrow, talking about the latest polling data. Of course, half of Americans say we cannot afford food. Even more than half say this is all Donald Trump's fault. So everybody outside of the diehard MAGA knows what's happening. They're not fooled by Trump's talking points, and they squarely blame him. Even, I think, 37% of Trump voters say that, yes, he did this. So even among those diehard MAGAs, he's not able to continue to convince them that it's not happening or that it's not his fault. And those numbers will continue to get worse. It's not like the people who blame Trump now are going to come back in 6 months and say, well, actually, it's Biden's fault somehow. It's not working. This is one of the few instances where if you repeat a lie enough, people still aren't going to believe it. And for the record, they actually did some psychological studies in the 60s and 70s to see if that was true. Like, if you repeat a lie enough, do people believe it? And it turns out, yes, they do. And that, of course, is what this administration is trying to do with telling people that no, prices haven't gone up, you're just being crazy, or yeah, they went up, but it's also Biden's fault. So we've got a little bit of a, conflicting message coming from the White House, both that prices aren't going up and you're falling for a Democratic hoax, and they are going up, but it's also the Democrats' fault. Because this administration is incapable of accepting responsibility for anything they do. It's always somebody else's fault in Trump's world. All the bad things that he did and got in trouble for, it's because somebody else has it out for me. I'm not even allowed to break the law without you liberals coming out there and, doing all these horrible things to me. I'm just trying to break the law. I'm just trying to scam the tax agencies. I'm trying to scam the banks. And golly gee, I can't do it anymore because you darn liberals. Absolutely ridiculous. It's a pathetic way to go through life. Donald Trump is not a man. He's not any kind of alpha. He's like worse than like beta male. He is the epitome of what every man in this country, or what every person in this country, honestly, should strive to not be, because he is a pathetic, whiny, as I say in my little videos all the time, baby bitch. That's what he is. But here is another thing that happened. Because Donald Trump didn't just tell poor people, hey, you have to stop buying things. He also took some time out of that very weird speech to openly fantasize about Caroline Levitt. He once again decided to talk about her lips, which honestly are her worst features. It's one of the things that all the people who mock her tend to mock her the most for. But Donald Trump loves those lips. Can't stop thinking about them, and it's no secret as to why. But here is what he said. Excuse me, I seem to have thrown away the wrong paper here. So he said this about Caroline. We even brought our superstar today, Caroline. Isn't she great? Is Caroline great? When she goes on television, Fox, they dominate. They dominate. When she gets up there with that beautiful face and those lips that don't stop up like a little machine gun. She's got no fear because we have the right policy. We don't have men in women's sports. We don't have to sell transgender to everybody. We don't have to sell open borders where the whole world is allowed to come into our country from prisons and everywhere else. So she's got a little bit easier job. I wouldn't want to be the other side's press secretary. Like a little machine gun. You know what? I got to take issue with the whole machine gun thing. Because it doesn't make sense. Her lips are not like a machine gun. I understand when people do say that. I remember, in the trailer for Thank You for Smoking, they had Nick Naylor out there and he's talking really fast and like making all these points and convincing people. And they overlaid the machine gun sound with it. Maybe that's what Trump is thinking of. That's why he wants to compare Caroline Levitt's lips to a machine gun, but she doesn't do that. Okay. She's not like the micro machine guy from the 80s commercials, talking super fast and all that. That's not like, that would be machine gun lips. So it does drive me crazy, not just because it's super creepy that obviously he's got a thing for her, the way she looks at him, she's got a thing for him. And there is no doubt in my mind that has gone beyond platonic, but she doesn't have lips like a machine gun. She's not intelligent. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's not convincing anyone to believe her garbage. She is one of, shockingly, the most widely mocked people in this entire administration. I mean, people mock her more than they mock Kennedy and Hegseth. And those goobers are about as goofy as humanly possible. But his weird fantasizing about her, again, it's just kind of evidence to me that this has gone way beyond platonic. Okay. There is, I firmly believe, something going on between those two. It'll disgust you if you try to think about it. So let's just kind of move on from that issue. But the big question, is Trump going to make it to the end of the term, right? Obviously, with all the discussion recently about Donald Trump's health, which is not good, his lack of energy, his inability to stay awake during cabinet meetings, the bruising, the cankles, the 3 dementia tests that he admitted to, because that was a smart idea to tell everybody, I've had 2 this year alone. All right, well, that's indicative of a problem. But he's getting worse, and he seems to be getting worse by the week. So will he make it to the end of the term? He's already 79 years old. He's going to be 82 by the time his term ends. He's going to be pushing 83 at the time. And the decline that we have seen in these first, almost 11 months in office is shocking. At least Biden's decline was a little bit more, a little slower. He'd still have really great moments. Even after that disastrous debate last summer, he went out, did a rally in North Carolina the very next day at like 11 a.m., and he was totally fine. Trump can't do that anymore. So, I think that's something, by the way, that a lot of people forget that did happen. Biden bombed in the debate, and then the next morning he's out there at a rally acting like, there's nothing wrong with him at all. So that was very interesting to see. But Jim Acosta, former CNN anchor, postulated this week that Trump is not going to make it to the end of his term. Here is what Acosta had to say. He seems extremely tired. Having covered him up close, where are the press conferences? He doesn't do press conferences. The most he can do now is bring little kids into the room, and he screams at them and calls them names, and then he sends them away. He's not, of course, talking about real kids. He's talking about the cabinet members. That's the extent of him doing question and answer time, is on Air Force One or in the Oval Office. He doesn't do rallies. He did one this week, but that was, whatever. I did not think we would get to the end of this year. And my prevailing thinking on Donald Trump is he going to make it to the end of this term? Because he is more and more out to lunch by the day. He seems more detached from reality, and he just seems cognitively in a very different place than he was even a year ago. The naps, the Truth Social post, the stuff he's saying about Somali immigrants, some of this you can say, isn't this the shit he's been saying since 2015? Yes, to some extent that's true, but it feels like there's something going on. And there is. And of course, we've had linguistic experts that have looked at the type of speaking that he's doing, the words that he's choosing. He is using far more profanity now, whereas in the past he never did. He's a little less filtered, which of course is something that does happen to people who are suffering from dementia. So everything is the same, but it's also different. He hasn't changed who he is. He hasn't changed the things he believes. He's just a little angrier, a little more intense, and a little more unhinged when he speaks about him. And that, of course, is the big difference. So, will he make it? I'll get to some of those in a minute. Super chat here from Delicari says, these Republicans are a bunch of villains. They absolutely are. And they're not even good, competent villains either. It's not even a villain with like a decent backstory where you're like, okay, I understand why this person became the villain. They're just downright cartoonishly evil. Let's get to some more comments here. It says, Alistar Dreamer says, all he's doing is just playing the greatest, foulest hits because that's all he can recall. I agree 100% on that. And that, again, is something we see in people who are suffering from dementia. I've said it, 100 times. My grandmother, of course, suffers from dementia. And she will say the same things over and over. Like during, if she's saying a paragraph, she will repeat herself every now and then a couple times within the paragraph, which Donald Trump does constantly. She will tell you the same stories over and over and over again, sometimes almost in succession, which is something that we have seen Donald Trump do up to and including this week. So the repetition, not just of words or phrases, but of stories in general, is something that is common and, of course, symptomatic of somebody suffering from dementia. Aaron Okino says pencils, dolls, windmills. That's exactly what it is. I mean, he has these talking points that he repeatedly goes to, and he doesn't veer off of them ever. Now, there could be slight variations to the stories as time goes on, but it is effectively the same story, the same, synopsis that he always hits on here. Comment says, every day I wait for the Big Mac to win. Um, yeah, I mean, when we talk about his health, we can't not talk about his diet, especially because Republicans. Rand Paul was out there yesterday, did a hit on whatever network it was, and he was talking about healthcare. But he's like, what we actually need is for people to eat better. Okay, you can't legislate what people decide to put into their mouths as nutrition. Okay, and by the way, it's not necessarily the calories; it's the amount. Um, or it's not the type of calories, it's the amount of calories. So, the whole diet thing, yes, we all should be eating better. Yes, it does definitely help your body and prevent serious illnesses from happening. But we also need healthcare, Rand. You can't just say, like, it's your fault that you got heart disease. But Trump, on the other hand, these folks are like, oh, no, well, it's okay if he does it. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. out there talking, oh, Americans got to eat better. And then he's on the plane scarfing down McDonald's with Trump, looking like his, best friend just passed away. So it's pretty sad that these people are out there lecturing us about how we should be living our lives and what food we should be eating, and then falling in line with Donald Trump when it's time to have his hillbilly buffet of all these fast food burgers everywhere. So, yeah, I mean, look, McDonald's always wins. So if you're rooting for the Big Mac, don't worry. McDonald's always wins. Comment here from Jedi Protector says, Dementia Don was probably part of the supersize me crowd. Yes, and he got supersized from it. No way the MRI results pertaining to his heart are anything but fake. Yeah, I agree. That is from Ty Thompson 2724. And honestly, I don't even think it was on his heart. I really genuinely do not think this was a cardiac MRI, because it was given to him right after the dementia test. Okay. You don't take that Montreal cognitive assessment and then they're like, okay, we need to look at your heart. Like, nope, that's not the chain of events that typically happens. It's not like, wow, you missed a couple on here. We think your ticker is not quite right. Unless they're like, you're obviously not getting blood to your brain. Let's make sure your heart's okay. I believe that. So we'll see. Message retracted there. Not sure what happened. Comment here from Rocky Rockenbach says, my grandmother had Alzheimer's, fixated about the weather and what she would see outside. My grandmother, again, who has dementia, she loves to kind of tell everybody about what's going on in the backyard, the squirrels. There's a lot of cats from the neighbors that come over, and she'll tell you all day about the birds and the squirrels and all of that. And yeah, I mean, it really is something we see here. I don't think he'll live past the end of 2026, says Island Girl 0719. Now, about that, what I will say is that we do see Donald Trump in times of intense stress or, whatever it is, his health gets worse. His physical health gets worse. His mental health gets worse. And next year is going to be a very stressful year for him. It's the midterms. His influence is waning within the Republican Party. After the primaries, when some of these Republicans are a little more safe and they don't have to worry about primary challengers, it's predicted that we could see more of them turn against him. So next year is probably like 99% certain going to be a really bad, stressful year for him. Not just because of what's happening, but because of what he thinks is going to happen after, because Trump has been living in fear all year that if Democrats take back the House and or Senate next year, articles of impeachment are likely going to follow, which we saw several filed against different cabinet members this week. So it's going to be rough, and his health will get worse next year. I mean, just in general, on a timeline basis, his health will continue to get worse because he's not doing anything to get better. And all that added stress, all of that drama, all of the, anger that he's feeling, that's going to make it so much worse. Hello, Farron. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think RFK needs to stop the drugs, says Get a Burn. I don't know if he is currently on drugs. Obviously, he does have a history of it. He's open about it. He's admitted it. He's had legal problems about it. But I think, though, back in the day, he did enough to totally fry his brain to turn him into what he is today. Love that baby bitch Trump. Here's a comment here. It says, I thought you quit. You made a video about it. And I said repeatedly in the video, I'm not doing political videos anymore. Like, I literally almost started the video saying that. I quit Ring of Fire. That's it. And I made that abundantly clear. I don't want to sound rude here, but I left Ring of Fire to solely focus on this channel. I never, ever said I was leaving politics or leaving video, leaving YouTube, leaving any of that. So I left Ring of Fire, yes, but I did not stop doing this channel, because this is, I own this channel and this is what I do now, and I love it and it's great. Your videos became redundant doing on Fair and Balanced all you do on ROF. I did my best to keep the two channels without having, copycat content. But obviously, in talking about certain issues, you hit on the same points. So yeah, that was also a big issue. Question here: what will it take to get you in the race for Congress in 2026? All the wild horses you can find. I am not interested in being in office. I have no desire to do that. I enjoy what I do right now. And I have no political experience. I'm not the kind of person that we should want in office. So that's definitely not me, definitely not happening. Love your work, Farron. You are the best person for me to get my political news and other stuff you do. Oh, well, thank you very much. That is super nice. I do appreciate that. You're the reason we need people like you in office. You don't want it, but you're the best person for it. I appreciate that. Look, it's never going to happen, right? Probably never. Maybe, but maybe probably not. Okay. How about that? Maybe, probably not is the answer on whether or not I'm going to run for office. And honestly, I couldn't even do it here. I'm in a deep red district in a state that is just more and more red. I would have no chance here because of the politics of this area, unfortunately. So, man, that message was deleted. Is they get yourself some hair plugs, and then I didn't see the rest of it. But yeah, I have no interest in hair plugs either. I'd run for office before I got hair plugs, and I know I'm getting a little long on the sides here, and I need to shave again. But listen, hey, everybody, if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe. We crossed 1 million last week. It's wonderful. It's great. We're entering the holiday season now, so everything on the YouTube front and, the videos we put on Facebook, it's all slowing down a bit. So if you could do us a big favor, share the videos with everyone like-minded individuals you're trying to get, to become a like-minded individual, people you want to prove wrong, whatever it is. Make sure you're sharing this content, of course, and subscribe. If you want more from me, which I can't imagine why you wouldn't, follow me across social media at Farron Balanced. Easy enough to remember. Farron Balanced on Facebook, Farron Balanced on Instagram, on TikTok, on Threads, on Blue Sky. So all of those at Farron Balanced. I appreciate that. That's it for today. We had a good talk, and thank you very much. I've got a lot more energy now than when I began. So that's always good. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Again, every weekday, 9 a.m. Central, right here, first of the day, as far as I know. So it's a great way to start your day, a great way to kind of just get a little fun and information in. So thank you all so much. Don't forget to share and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Oh, a lot of great content coming up the rest of the day. Please make sure you watch all that too. Thank you.